Very nice to be together, and I am very conscious of taking your time and your space and wanting to use it really well this evening for you, and to give you some tools to tell you a little bit about our what we call our mandala, or our group of organizations, and the teachings from a particular Tibetan tradition that is a wisdom and compassion tradition. Can you hear? Everyone, can you hear me? Okay, very good. And I've got my screen on a gallery view, so I can see everyone. I want to tell you a little bit about me and about us, and then launch in. But we'll have time for questions and comments, and to introduce yourselves if you'd like to. Maybe a little bit more toward the middle and toward the end. But if you have any question along the way, don't hesitate to interrupt me by raising your hand. I generally can see, and if I don't see, I'm going to count on Itzhak to see for me and tell me someone wants to talk to me. I'm not good at reading the chat box. I find it impossible to do that while I'm also on screen. So that's calling out to me is a better way of getting my attention, just to let you know. So I have been studying in this particular lineage for almost 25 years. I stumbled upon it. I was raised as a Jew. I am a Jew. And I just happened to find, it's a long story, which I won't go into. I just happened to find this teacher very randomly. And I got very interested in what he was presenting. But of course, he wasn't actually presenting it, because our teacher, whose name is Tarteng Tulku, is 88 years old. He's the same age and generation as the Dalai Lama. He's a colleague, really, of the Dalai Lamas, but he is in a slightly different lineage from the Dalai Lamas in Tibet. He was trained traditionally and left Tibet in the 1950s and eventually settled in the United States, and particularly in Northern California. So he's been here ever since. He's still alive. He still teaches, but for many, many, many years, he teaches only a handful of senior students. He doesn't teach beyond that. And then he relies on us to do the teaching more publicly. He's really on permanent retreat at his retreat center in Northern California. So that's why you see people like me and not him, and we're poor substitutes. I'm a poor substitute, but I do the best I can to try to live within these teachings, try to embody them, and try to pass them on. As he puts it, it's all about sharing and shining, shining what you know out into the world, and then sharing with others. So the title of the talk that Itzhak and I came up with a long time ago, before this war began, this conflict began, was Connecting Through the Heart. And when we decided to go ahead with that this was still a very good topic, we added to that connecting through the heart in times of turmoil. And certainly, this is a time of turmoil. But in most of our lives, most of the time is a time of turmoil. Not, of course, to the extent that you're experiencing it now, that we're all experiencing it now, but you particularly. But if you look back over your life, you will probably wonder if there was ever a really extensive time when there wasn't turmoil, upset, distress, distraction. Sometimes we look back on that and we think, well, how trivial that I was upset about that. Now there's something serious. Why was I upset about that? Why was I living with unhappiness or distress when it seems now that wasn't very important? But yet that seems to be the human condition, that the way our minds have been educated, the way we've been educated to use our minds and bodies and breath and language, seems to have brought about a lot of disturbance for most of us. So today I want to address that. I want to see what we can do about that. I want to talk about times of turmoil, but also guide us to how can we transform inwardly enough so that we can be present in our experience, whatever it happens to be at the moment, and yet not lose our center, not lose our balance. So I'll be talking some, I'll be introducing some ways of practicing, some ways of working with ourselves right in the middle of our everyday lives, ways that don't require us to go into a cave and disappear or run away from whatever is happening or deny whatever is happening or suppress whatever is happening, but simply to be with ourselves in the deepest possible way that we can and draw upon the best of being fully human and let that flourish. So if we can just together learn how to do that a little bit, we too can possibly shine, particularly shine in times of turmoil when people so badly need a little light. We want like to light a little candle, but these practices are all about becoming a little candle and shining out for others, shining out for ourselves. And so that's where we'll be going today. And I'll introduce a few practices that are very gentle, very simple. You can do them. We'll do them together. You can do them at home. And if you don't want to participate in something, it's completely fine. Just listen, just be there, and take what you can from this. All right. Any questions more before? All right, so let's just begin very, very simply. Wherever you are, we're not going to be going into any kind of deep meditation practice here. We're just trying to bring a little ease to our bodies, to our minds, to our breath. So wherever you are, just sitting, see if you can put your feet on the floor. That's the first thing. And you may need, I'm a little short, and I'm sitting on a cushion, so I have to come forward on my chair in order to do that. That might be the case for you as well. See if you can feel the seat underneath your behind, your backside. Let it hold you up, be a support, and then feel your feet on the floor. And in fact, bring your awareness or your noticing quality to your feet. Just for a moment, let all of your attention drop down to the soles of your feet. And feel that groundedness. There is a chair, there is a ground holding us up. It's very, very important to make ourselves grounded right from the beginning. And then wherever you're sitting, as you feel your behind and your feet, also notice where there might be some pockets of tension in your body. Usually we carry tension in our shoulders, in our belly, maybe in our face. And see if you can just, with a few breaths, simple breaths, relax that tension just a little bit. The chair's holding you up, your feet are on the ground. And just for a moment, we'll do this just for a few moments. Become aware of your breathing, of your breath. You are breathing. This is a wonderful thing. So feel your inhale coming in and your exhale going out. It's not something we usually pay attention to. Just very light awareness of your breath coming in and breath coming out. There's nothing you need to do to change your breath. However you're breathing is perfect, just as it is. Just for a moment, open your eyes if they've been closed and let them just relax as well, so they don't have to see anything in particular, but they're a little bit open, so you have some light coming in. All right, very good. So as we continue, you can come back to the screen and see if you can keep some connection to the ground that's holding us up and to your breath that's bringing us life, allowing us to be together, to be here today. And we don't often pay attention or bring any appreciation to just that simple process of breathing in and breathing out. So keep that going, that sense that you're breathing and you're sitting. That's all, very simple. All right. So the topic we're talking about, connecting through the heart. We know what times of turmoil are, but what does it mean really to connect through the heart? What are we connecting to? And the answer I want to present is we're connecting to ourselves. We're connecting to the deeper part of ourselves, the part that's often quite hidden from us. Sometimes it's a part that we think we don't want to see, but I'm going to suggest that there's a deeper part below the part we're used to experiencing, and below and even deeper than the parts we don't like very much about ourselves, to something that we might call our inner wisdom, our inner knowledge, where if we're more religiously inclined, we might call it our soul. Sometimes people refer to it as our spirit, our ability to have insight, deep insight, to follow a path of meaning, of caring. So in other words, there are many ways of describing it. At Dharma College, we're really presenting Tibetan teachings in a modern context, in a very secular way. So we're not really using the language of blessings, and we're not using religious ritual, and we're not talking about prayer, and all of that is fine. But to address the way most of us today think of our spirituality and our knowingness, our ability to know and our ability to reach out and to feel, for most people who have been educated in a Western way today, the language, the religious language, is often doesn't spark as deep a meaning as our more secular way of thinking. So I'm going to stay with the secular language and say we can think about our connecting as a way of finding that place where we know, or we have wisdom that can't quite be put into words. And I'm going to suggest that all of us know that place, have experienced that place, at least from time to time in our lives. That certain experiences have sparked that. Sometimes they've been very positive experiences, like love, or just being in nature, or stumbling upon some great book or some piece of learning. And sometimes actually our deeper wisdom and knowing arises out of something we think of as negative, like a crisis of some sort, like a difficult space, like a conflict in the outer world, like an illness that we may have, like the loss and grief that we suffer. And sometimes, oddly enough, those experiences also spark some deeper knowing, something that changes us very greatly and that we can't any longer ignore. And Tibetan wisdom is all about finding a way to live in that deeper place, not just once in a while, and not just randomly, and especially not having to have a crisis to draw it out, but to live there all of the time. So I want to talk about what's enlightenment, to live in that deeper space of knowing, that connected space to ourselves. Because there's also this notion within these teachings that that space is not personal to us. That is to say, we don't own it. It's not self space, even though we go in inwardly to our deeper mind and heart, but it's actually wholeness space. So where we live most of the time now, we're very disconnected from ourselves and from this deeper wholeness. Our hearts and want to do one thing, our heads tell us something else. We're very confused. We don't know what path to follow. Other people are telling us one thing or praising us for something that we're not sure we deserve to be praised for. Our emotions are coming up very strongly in all different kinds of situations. Of course, our anxiety, our fear. The more there's outer conflict in our world, and certainly there is in your world right now, the more our inner space reflects that conflicted sense of feeling. So it's as though the conflict itself is mirrored within us. We're fragmented. We're in parts. We're confused. We speak that way. We say, part of me wants to do this and part of me thinks I should do that. But the truth is that we don't come in parts. We are fully human beings. Our bodies, our minds, our feelings, our hearts, these are all connected. Whether we want to look at this as biology or we want to look at this as something bigger in the spiritual sense, either way, we know that we are connected. We're connected to space. We're connected to time. We're connected to each other through feeling, through our breath. This little bit of breathing. When we breathe out, others breathe what we breathe out. When we breathe in what others breathe out. We've just gone through the terrible pandemic where we're so conscious now of people breathing around us. But the truth is that we are all part of this, could say, system of being, system of life. And yet we feel so separate and so fragmented. And you can look at the spiritual path that the Buddha presented, that all different kinds of Buddhisms really go back to in terms of their lineage, as a way of creating connection and wholeness, as a way of reminding ourselves that we actually are part and not separate of this amazing and sometimes complex and often very disturbing whole. And nevertheless, if we don't shine out, if someone doesn't take responsibility for moving in a positive direction, then very easily that disturbance, the suffering in the world, begins to take over. So there's a very large emphasis on creating the conditions for inner peace and inner joy in the Tibetan teachings. And that is not to say that there is no recognition of sadness or distress or anxiety. Absolutely, absolutely, we know those feelings, but we don't have to practice those feelings. That's kind of the point. those feelings seem to come very easily. Disturbance, fragmentation, irritation, frustration, great fear, great anxiety. Our culture presents us with many opportunities to know those feelings. What we do need to practice are the opposite. Because unless we do, all that fragmentation will seem to be the whole picture. And that is not so. And so the more we can practice the opposite, inner peace, joy, delight, awe, wisdom, comfort, caring, compassion, the more we will actually open up into the fullness of what it is to be human. Will we still feel sadness? Of course. What is compassion without feeling sadness? Will we still feel fear? Yes. For a very long time, we will still feel fear. But can we right ourselves? Can we bring ourselves back? Can we come back to the center? Can we be balanced? Can we remind ourselves through our body and our hearts of what it is to be fully human and whole? Yes, we can. And we do that not just for ourselves, but for the world as a whole, because it's not part of our bigger culture, and we need to bring it forward. We need to make it happen. So for whatever reason, we become the little light that has to shine and share the positive feelings with others. So to begin, we really need to connect with our own heart. I mean, that's the first step. I will show you one quote from one of Tartang Tulku's many, many books. But let's see if I can share this now with you. All right, I seem to have to do this. Good. Okay. Let's try now. So this is from a book, one of Tartang Tulku's earliest books on self-healing and self-care. And he says, the basic teachings of the spiritual path arise from within our hearts. When our hearts become our teachers and give us confidence, spiritual nourishment flows through the heart center and releases healing energies. So it is important to contact our hearts and listen to our inner silence. And this is a theme throughout Buddhist teachings. Our minds give us a lot of noise, you could say, a lot of language, a lot of activity, a lot of conceptual complexity. But there is another language. There is a different language within, and that language is made up of silence. It sounds a little bit paradoxical, but in practice, if you realize that there is a wholeness to our being, you realize that silence and sound are not entirely different from each other. that our language creates them as opposites, but that in fact there is silence within sound and a kind of communication like language in silence. And again, we're very familiar with our sound language, but we don't have much familiarity with our silence within. That too is communicating. And so that's where we need to practice. And so I want to ask you now to do a little practice with the heart, where you're going to touch feelings. And our hearts carry a lot of feelings, many different kinds of feelings. So if you're comfortable with this, I'm going to lead you through a little practice to start connecting and listening to the inner part of our heart. And we begin by rubbing our hands together. So wherever you are, just rub your hands just lightly. And what you want to feel is a little bit of warmth in your hands. A little bit of warmth. And when you feel warm, just take one hand and place it over your heart. And place the other hand over the first hand. And let the warmth from your hands penetrate through your clothing, your muscles, and your skin, deep into the center of your heart. Just feel that warmth penetrating into your heart. And let that warmth relax your heart. Relax all of the tension in your chest. And flow up into your throat and down into your belly. Just relaxing. Feel your heart beat. And again, without changing anything or making it do something it's not doing. Just feel it. Right there in the center of your heart, there's an inner silence. Just stay with that a little bit. All right, and you can take one hand down and then the other very slowly. And again, see if you can stay with that feeling of deep silence and relaxation, the center of your body, center of your heart. And feel your feet on the ground. You're behind on the chair. Your breath coming in and out. Connecting through the heart to the sky, to the earth, to your body, your wisdom, and to each other. All right, let's pause a minute and see if people have questions or comments, anything you want to say or ask about or anything at all. You can let that feeling from the heart come all the way up into your throat and connect with us as well through language.
Hi.
Hi.
I wanted to ask something that happens to me while I'm doing meditation like this very oftenly, especially when I close my eyes. I just like disconnect, like suddenly falling asleep or something. I don't know what's happened. Like I just disconnect from myself, and then I'm like it's a small panic that no, don't do that. So, and that's disturbance. So I just wanted to ask if you have some advice of this.
Yes, I sometimes that is we are very sleepy. So sometimes that really is falling asleep a little bit, and then we are waking up. So it's not really a problem, but sometimes it's also the self. When we know we talk a lot about in Buddhism about no self. You've probably heard those phrases. But we can take it very simply as when we practice and really go deeply within, we don't have that same sense of ourselves in that conceptual way that we did before. So sometimes as we go deeply, we get a little afraid. It's as though the ego or the self is just, it needs to come back. So it, kind of pops us out of a deeper relaxation. It's not anything to worry about. It's just again, there are a lot of ways in which the mind tries to move us away or distract us from our deeper practice. And I just don't think that you need to worry about it. Just know that's probably going to happen. And when you come back out, you pop back out in that way. Just take a few breaths and go back into relaxation practice. If you're sleepy, you might fall asleep for a few minutes and then you'll wake up again. If you're just getting a little fearful, also, we have to be very gentle with our minds and with our bodies, and they are not used to this. Just let it get used to it. Try it again. So the key with the practices in the Nyingma tradition that we're in, this Tibetan Buddhist tradition lineage called Nyingma, is to be very kind, very gentle with yourself. This is about self-care. Self-care, especially at a time where the world is not giving you, it's not making it easy. And so we have to be particularly loving toward ourselves. It's hard because it's not what we've been educated to do, really. So don't worry. Anybody else now, or will? All right. So we're talking about really about self-care, about wholeness, about finding ways to connect and become our fully human, fully wisdom-minded self in the middle of situations where that's very difficult. And everything in the outer world is trying to knock us off our base. And so how do we manage to survive? Most of the time, we tend to do this to try to help ourselves through talking to ourselves. Don't know if this is familiar to you, but I think it probably is, and that is that you start to have a conversation with yourself. You start to either get irritated and angry with yourself. Why are you doing that? Why are you thinking that? Why are you saying that? Or you just simply get confused and you argue back and forth about what you should be doing, what's right for you to be doing, how do you manage, and it all becomes a lot of chatter within the mind. And the one thing that these teachings do tell us is that that approach, which we all have been educated to use in our Western world these days, is not effective. That is to say, it lasts for a very short time. You tell yourself, I shouldn't do it. It's like very simple things. I shouldn't have another drink, or I shouldn't eat another piece of food, or I shouldn't feel badly, or I have to do this, or I shouldn't do that. All those shoulds, all those have tos. It's not just those words. It's actually the process of using language to transform ourselves is self-defeating. And there's a lot more to be said about this. There's a tremendous amount that this Tibetan and many, many other Buddhist lineages have learned through the centuries by practicing in different ways with the mind, by clearing their minds in certain ways to actually see the rising up of experience, which is very hard for us because we don't have the ability or the time to do the kind of constant meditation that might allow that knowledge to come to us in that way. So, for instance, to become a Tibetan Lama, you have to, in this Nyingma tradition, you have to go on a retreat for 3 years, 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days, and 3 hours. And so how many of us are going to do that? And on that retreat, you speak to no one absolutely no one. You're completely in silence with yourself, and your teacher has given you some practice to do, and you just do it. And you might be in a cave, or you might be, in today's world, you might be just in an apartment, but wherever you are, you're not communicating with other people. Well, this is very wonderful, but it's not something that most of us are going to do. So our ability to meditate for just a short period of time isn't going to take us so deeply. But fortunately, there are other ways of working. There are other ways of using our understanding and even our conceptual knowledge that helps us to move in the direction of wholeness and balance. And the one thing we know is that just allowing the mind to chatter to itself continuously, to tell stories, to tell narrative, to define what's true, all of this is not designed to bring lasting change to our manifestation as human beings. And we need to alternate our conceptual knowledge, which is very, very great, greater than it's ever been in the world, with other kinds of practice. And the primary practice path, fortunately, is very, very nice, because it involves bringing ease into all parts of us. What Tarting Tulku calls our vehicles, our three vehicles, for it's as though we're in a car, for our vehicles for moving in the world, which he defines as, and this is very typical within the lineage, as our body, our language, speech, and our mind. And we have to bring ease because there is so much tension. Our way of living, and particularly, of course, where we're living now, where you're living now, is tremendous amount of tension. So again, we don't have to practice on the tension side. The tension is coming from the outer experience, and it's going to make its way in. We need to practice. If we want balance, you could say, if you think about balance as tension in my right hand and relaxation in my left hand, I don't need to develop my right hand. It's happening for me. I need to develop my left hand, my ease, so that I can sit like a Buddha, balanced, right hand, left hand. And many practices are available. And as I said, sometimes we can't manage long meditation sessions or getting ourselves away. I know that most of the time I think about running away, where can we run to? Where can we go? But in our world today, especially with communication the way it is, and instant news, et cetera, and there's no running away. So we have to develop it in different ways within ourselves. And fortunately, these practices are very effective, even in short doses, and they're very effective right in the middle of our lives. So we can sit and put our hands over our hearts and put our feet on the ground, even for 2 minutes, for 5 minutes, and feel benefit and feel ease and be able to connect more deeply again to the inner wisdom that's already there. Again, these practices are not filled with ethical instructions. In fact, Nyingma Group has been saying over and over again recently, no instruction, no instruction, no instruction. We're already instructing ourselves. That's part of the problem. We're already telling ourselves what to do, what not to do, what we should do, what we shouldn't do. But if we can go more deeply than that, cut through the tension of all of that instruction and simply go to the deepest part of our natural wisdom, our natural inner silence and peace, we will find that we already know what to do. We already know how to act, how to reach out to people, how to offer what we can offer, how we can smile, when we can put our arms around someone and just give them a hug. We can't, we're not the politicians where we can get angry as heck, but we can't do much oftentimes on that level. But what we can do is to deeply heal ourselves and to transform ourselves in a way that we know how to reach out and take care of those around us, the world that we're in, as much as possible. So that's really, you want to see if there's a purpose here, it's that. To be able to heal ourselves first. It's like being on an airplane where they tell you, I was just on an airplane when they tell you 3 things. They tell you, put your oxygen mask on first, and then they tell you, put it on before if you have a child with you, and they also tell you, take your face mask off if you're wearing a face mask. So if we're wearing something, not literally, but figuratively, if we're hiding behind some mask, we have to take our face masks off, that mask off, and we have to heal ourselves deeply with our breath, with our body, with our mind, and then we know how to shine out or offer something to others. So there's another practice I want to give you that it's also very good for just being able to use in short times anywhere. And this has to do with memory and also with visualization. So if you could think right now of a color, think of a color that's very beautiful and very healing for you. When you see this color, you already love this color. It's your favorite color or one of your favorite colors, but it's especially a color that makes you smile. So you might see it in your room around you. Maybe you've bought something in that color, and you might have your eyes open, or if not, you can imagine it. And as you sit, either with your eyes slightly open or with them closed, and allow that color just simply to rise up within our minds. We have this incredible ability to imagine, to visualize, and just see it inwardly. Let it fill not just your mind, but see if you can let it fill your body. That color fill your heart, fill your body, fill your belly. Maybe if your back is hurting, let it fill your back. This is a very healing color for you. It's very personal to you in that sense. A very simple practice. Buddhist practice is always about lightening and loosening and opening. So I can lighten the color filled with light, loosen the body, let the light shine in, the colored light, open the heart. You don't have to grasp onto the color or make it stay the same. It may move around or even change its tone, its brightness, as you're imagining and feeling the healing power of this color. Just trust that. The light and the color know what's needed. And particularly now, bring this colored light to your thoughts. So as thoughts come up, just drench them in this light. You don't need to stop the thinking or fight with the thinking. Do anything except bring the thoughts together with this beautiful healing light. Just shine that light on your thoughts. All right, and then once again, slowly come back to the screen, and maybe you can still hold a sense of that color. Again, you can look around you, maybe you'll see some of it. And as you go through the week, this is again a very simple practice to use. You just need to remember to bring this color into your experience. And you may find that you notice it more in the world around you. It may be there more than you're experiencing. One of the ways in which these wisdom teachings work is to expand our experience of our senses. So mind, as it works most of the time for us, keeps us very patterned. There's a lot we can talk about this, but I don't want to spend too much time on it because I think most of us already know, we already understand something about this. That is to say, we don't just feel or see randomly, and we don't just think, feel, see, experience openly. We think, feel, and experience in certain patterns that repeat and repeat and repeat throughout our lives. So we think we can run away from something, but we bring the pattern with us. Some of these patterns are embedded in our bodies. That is to say, the way we stand or sit, or hold our shoulders, or how we hold our bellies and the tension, or how we connect to our heart or don't connect to our heart. Some of these patterns have to do with our thinking, of course, and our emotions, of course. So we all by now in life could define ourselves as I'm mostly a sad person, or I'm mostly a happy person, or I'm mostly a frustrated person, or a bored person, or etc. Or there's depression has taken over. Those patterns, emotional patterns, too, have to do with mind and the way it's functioning. But we also have patterns of sensory experience, and our senses are incredibly valuable for allowing us to take care of ourselves on the level of beauty, ease, and appreciation. And yet, much of the time, we're not getting, you could say, the full value out of our senses. Our senses, too, have formed patterns. Maybe we're eating, and we're eating a lot, but we're not really noticing what we're eating or truly deeply enjoying the experience of our food. Maybe we're hearing, but we're not really listening very well, and we're not getting the full value of all of the sounds that are going on around us. Maybe it's our sight, and we see only very few things. Our pattern is not to really focus. Our eyes are tense, and we see maybe what's right in front of us, but not what's around that in any way. And we're losing a lot of, you could say, the nourishment, the spiritual nourishment we could be getting from the world around us as a result of that. So we've just worked a little bit with bringing in some color, noticing that there are some colors that have a healing value for us, that can help to bring ease into our experience. So I'd like to do another practice now that has to do with sound. If we weren't on screen, I would use a Tibetan bell for this, but it's very hard. The bell gets cut off on Zoom, and I haven't figured out how to use. There are ways of doing this that I'm not very technical, so that I haven't figured it out yet. But so I'm going to do it a different way, and this is a slightly different practice, but it's very, very simple. It's just welcoming all the sounds that are going on around you in experience. It's called welcoming all sound. What do we do to listen? Virtually nothing. I mean, if we are people with a capability, a capacity of hearing, we don't really have to do anything, right? It just, sound just enters. But we have these patterns where we're actually silencing some sounds and we're not listening to all the sounds, primarily because as soon as we hear a sound, our mind starts reacting to it by making comments, by labeling it, by thinking about it, by liking it or disliking it, by judging it, interpreting it. So what I'd like us to do is just open that up a little bit, all those patterns. And again, very simple practice you can do anywhere at any time. It's just to sit quietly and listen. And there's no need to make any commentary at all about what you hear. If there is commentary, you can let it come in and go out and come back to listening. Wherever we are, there's sound and also there's some silence. So listen to the sound. Listen to the sounds stopping, the pauses, the new sounds, the repeated sounds. The world is providing a symphony of sound and silence. And let's listen. And if you get caught up in thinking, relax your ears a little bit more, relax your body, your breath, and come back just to listening. Right then, once again, just gently come back, and perhaps you, even while I'm talking, you'll be able to continue to hear some of the more subtle sounds that are going on in your space and some of the louder sounds that are going on in your space around you. We spend so much time judging sound. This one I like, that one I don't like. But when we allow ourselves simply to hear, often there's a spaciousness, a kind of ease, a kind of recognition and appreciation of all the beauty, or at least the complexity and interest of what's going on around us. And we have more access, more sense of being connected and of wholeness. So we've had the practice now of just simply sitting with our feet on the ground, feeling ourselves supported, and noticing our breath. And we've had the practice of rubbing our hands together, touching our heart, feeling our heart, and allowing the ease of that sensation, the appreciation of the heartbeat to move, to relax more of our body and more of our mind. We've had the practice of visualizing color and light and letting that color heal and touch our bodies and also our thought and mind. And now we've had this practice of listening to sound, not complicated, but a different way, a new way of listening outside the pattern that usually arises for us of choosing which sounds to listen to, or not listening to some, not listening to most, maybe. So those are 4 ways that right in the middle of our life, we can grab a few moments in the middle of complexity and busyness and connect through the heart to ourselves and to our deepest wisdom and caring and knowing, and trust into that without very much instruction. Simply knowing that as human beings, we have this incredible capacity to feel, to think, to experience through our senses. And in that sense, to choose. To choose who and what we are and how we proceed and how we communicate, what we do with this body. In Tibetan Buddhism, traditionally, they talk about this precious human life. This precious human life. And while we're living it, if we can begin to appreciate it, some more effective and meaningful and deeper knowledge will arise for us that we'll be able to use to shine and share out into the world. So that's really all that I have to say at this moment. And I'm very happy to hear from you and answer questions or hear your comments, or if you just simply want to introduce yourselves to each other. I don't know if you know each other, some of you, or some of you do or don't, or anything to hear your voices and your thoughts and what might be helpful for you. I invite you now to participate. And if not, that's okay too. I'm not trying to put any pressure on anyone who doesn't want to speak or doesn't have anything that they want to ask. So, but just to know this is your time. Yes. Thank you. Would you like to unmute?
Hi.
Hi.
That was really, really great. Since the beginning of the war, I couldn't fall asleep if I wasn't high. If I wasn't stoned, I had to use weed to fall asleep. And during this meditation, I almost fell asleep. I was so calm and so peaceful. It was really, really great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And I'm going to use it.
Good. That's what I want to know. And I want to feel that it's all you. It's your body. It's your mind. God, we have to care for ourselves. It's so clear we have to take care of ourselves. So I'm very happy. Good. Yes.
First, I would like to thank you very much for really wonderful hour now.
Thank you.
I think you introduced here very simple ways and practical ways just to connect to ourselves. And this simplicity is very important. So we don't have to carry without any mattress or cushion, and we don't have to take a book or whatever. We have all these already, and just this simple way of connecting to ourselves is very precious. And of course, there are many ways, and these are four practices which are so simple, so deep, and appreciate it very much. So even if it was for a very short time, I could, let's say, go very deeply in. And this is very nice. I would like to thank you very much for it.
You're welcome very much. And thank you very much for talking now. And you just really said something very profound, which has to do with simplicity. Everything is very complex, but on the other hand, everything is also very simple. We have a body, we have our breath, we have our mind. That's about it. Our senses, we have 5 senses, just that's it. And this mind, it's not too much. It's just a little bit. And if we can simply pay attention and remember, we can really access something within ourselves, and we all have it. I mean, that's the phenomenal thing. It's just as you said, sometimes Rinpoche says, Tarteng Chulku says, you don't have to go out and buy a whole set of lab equipment, where it's not even like going to the gym where you have to buy the right clothes, right, to go to the gym and do something, or you don't need a lot of equipment, because the equipment's already our human beingness. It's what he says, it's our birthright, this mind and this breath and these senses. So in some ways, just remembering to get more simple with our seeing. One color is enough. So, thank you. Yes. That's what I love about this, really. Usha?
I really want to say thank you, first of all. It was very, very, very beautiful and very, very nice. It was very relaxing. And I did all the steps, as you said. And it was easy. You can incorporate it on now. I have to remember it. However, during the end, that's how I came up with this question, is that at one point I had a very strong emotion of grief and sadness. So I was saying, in all this, how do we have an tool? Of course, I came back to the present, and now when I just opened my eyes and, you can say, just pushed away that emotion. But do you have your way of handling emotions into our breathing? I did all the exercises. And towards the end, all those emotions whelmed up. Something triggered, I don't know. It's, the mind works at 1,000, a speed of light, you can say. So
Yes, it does. Exactly. And that's very fast, the speed of light. So yes, our hearts are holding many, many things right now. Your hearts are holding many things. Some of it is very relief and relaxing and beautiful, and some of it is grief and sadness. All of that is there. And but what we can remember is that it all moves. This manifestation of being, it changes all the time. It's not permanent. So we feel, and then we feel again, and then we feel again. You don't need to push away any of the sadness or the grief. It's just sometimes we actually really just need to feel it and then let it run like a river, and then let the joy back in. What we tend to do is we hold on to the grief because we keep a lot of thinking going that keeps it manifesting. So if we can just be with it, let it move through us, like the sound, like the silence. It comes and it goes. It comes and it goes. And so there's not really any problem in feeling many, many things. It's just like listening to sound. and seeing many, many things. The problem only comes when we keep one thing going and going and going. So that's what I would say. And then the more we practice, because right now we've practiced a lot in our lives of grief, and we've practiced a lot of sadness. So the more we practice relaxation, the more we practice joy, the more we feel appreciation, the more it comes in at times when we're not filled with grief, then the more that becomes a kind of default position, a basis that we have. So when we feel the sadness, we don't stay in it so long. We come back to a more balanced and whole place. So I would say, one, practice the positive feelings when you can, when you're feeling okay. When the grief comes in, don't let it worry you, but don't hold on to it either. And then when it runs its little course, as it will, then come back to practicing the positive. And as that, it's a process as it goes back and forth. So I hope
Great.
some sense. Okay.
Yes, it made very much. I think that will also help to erase our patterns of grief, anger, and whatever is holding us back into our bodies. At that point was really catching that how we are holding these emotions and patterns in our body.
Yes, yes, for sure. We have to be patient too. You know, we are only who we are, and we've had again so many things happen, and our culture doesn't support a lot of this way of working. So we have to be very patient and gentle with ourselves, and know this takes some time, and it does take some practice. Am I pronouncing it right? Nish? Yes?
Yes, it's neige.
Nay, okay.
Neige, yes.
Nish. Okay. Nish.
I just let me organize. I'm used to always practice through the negative feelings, because the negative feelings they lead us to understand things and to grow eventually. So my whole life I used to do it. When I feel something is wrong, something not bad, I don't feel good with myself, I always want a searching what's a problem, what happened, what's not right for me. And then I through those feelings, what's wrong, what's not good, I can understand what is the right things for me. And then I try to do the right things. But when everything is fine, I don't try to feel it, how it's good, how it's perfect, how I feel good. I don't wonder about it, because it's fine. I have nothing to I have nothing to do, like everything is good. So I don't know how to practice positive feelings, because I've never thought it can be useful, because everything is fine. I don't have to think of anything here. So what, like if something good is happening, I just research the feeling that I feel. That's how I practice it.
So there's a very, very lovely compassion practice that you could consider when everything is fine. And that is just simply to wish that first to notice, oh, everything's fine, I'm fine. But then to wish that everything could be fine for other people as well. Simply wishing, Tarting Rinpoche says, is a really, really good way to begin this practice of deep caring and shining out to others. So, and you don't have to worry at the start about wishing for people who are people you don't like or people you're in conflict with. You can start with wishing just for those you know and love, and simply wish that they too could feel fine. You must know people who are not feeling fine. And so when you feel fine, there's something you can do with that fineness. That is, you can share it, and just share it internally with a wish.
But then
And
I feel their pain, and I don't feel okay anymore.
Well, instead of feeling their pain, just wish for them to feel good with you. Just think of them and just wish them good. It's hard, it's a practice, but that is what we can do with our good feelings. And then
Not to go in their place, to try get them in my place.
No, just wish. It's just like
Just
you were
wish for
saying.
them to be okay, not to try feel what they feel, just to
Right.
wish for them to be okay like I did, like I am.
It's like sending them an internal
Okay.
happy card, you know? That's all.
Okay.
You don't have to take on their pain. Don't start with taking on their pain. We're not ready for that yet. Just start by wishing them well. Oh, I feel so good. I wish so-and-so could feel this right now. That's all. Simple. Very, very small. They say the Buddha became the Buddha by starting in the hell realm. He looked over and he saw that he was an animal of some sort, and he looked over and he saw that another animal tied to him was just totally suffering, and he just said, I wish he could feel okay. That's it. Just that beginning is good.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Robin. I don't know if someone else wants to ask, but I felt so much the flow, the energy, the good energy coming out from the teachings, from the practice. It was really amazing, and I feel that it's so important to have a continuation with this. So I will check with you and the group and to see how we can continue this, to come closer and closer in touch, and to know more and more on the treasures that we have available around us and within us, that can be of such a support in difficult times like this and in every day of human life. So
Yes. Thank you so
thank
much.
you so much for bringing this. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. It was wonderful to be together. And I will keep in touch, of course, with Itzhak, and we'll see what the next stages or the next opportunity to be together might be. So thank you so much for being here and for giving your time to these teachings.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank
Thank
you,
you.
everybody.